we are doing. So it's with great honor, with great pleasure that I hand over electronically to my good friend Lorenzo.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much for the very, very nice introduction. It's my pleasure, actually, an honor to be here again together with you, even if electronically, and to keep on working and servicing design principle practices, to collaborate with Phil and with the team of Common Ground, which is incredibly taking on their shoulder also this kind of challenge, a new challenge they are taking with during this kind of crazy time we're living. We're supposed to be together at this point. Unfortunately, we're not. But I think we can take anyway some opportunities in order to, share a few ideas and to develop that kind of collective intelligence that Common Ground and design principle practice is keeping pushing, through the network. Thank you also for the very, very nice intro. I will say a couple of things more, just to show you maybe something, some highlights about my background, what I did, in the last few years, and a couple of projects that I had, and also to give an understanding of what's happening also at Sapienza University of Rome for the design. Now, before back to Italy, I was in Canada for a few years. And I was heading a Master of Design at Carleton University, and we used to call it a Master of Interdisciplinary Design, even if formally it was not its name, because we were really hosting many different kind of backgrounds, our students, and we did take this kind of challenge of developing some kind of interdisciplinary design. So that was a very interesting experience for me, and also a bit groundbreaking for my let's say, academic education. At that time, through Carleton University, we also developed this experience. It was a journal called Fields, an interdisciplinary design journal, where we had our students working for it, and of course, we were used to send a call around, getting also different contribution from different also backgrounds. So the idea behind this project was understanding the kind of borders of design. As you know, design is pretty much enlarging, the network of its disciplines. So we were trying somehow to understand at the border of design, which were the other disciplines which we could interact with. That means, the psychologists, and for, user experience, the computer science, for interaction design, and many others, as you probably, of course, know. And so that was interesting because we were also trying to connect together the theoretical backgrounds, the philosophy of design, the theories of design, and the design practice at the time, also pretty much as design principle practices is doing since many years. And I think this work of bridging together, the practice and the theory is one of our challenges that we should push pretty much for the future. As we know, that design has been mainly a practice, and developing design education at university, at the academic level, means that we also need to develop some kind of philosophy of design at the same time, some kind of theories of design at the same time. That is also, the other base of the practice. So this was pretty much a sort of tool we have been developing, which was an educational tool for the master students, and also, a research tool, because we use it also pretty much to do research through this kind of journal. Going ahead, I've been also working for another journal, for another kind of magazine in Italy. It was Italian and English. We still have it, which is called Disegno Industriale Industrial Design, which started more than 20 years ago, so quite a long time. And this is one of the issues that I personally curated, that was interaction-based design, that also is telling, about what is one of my personal interests in design, which is also interaction design and development of technology through society. This was developed in 2009, so more than 11 years ago. And it was pretty much interesting because we had incredible contribution from Anthony Dunn and Fiona Rabi, and from Diana Eng, from John Meda, and from Bruce Sterling, and Derek Dekerkov, and Donald Norman, and many, many more. So, and Federico Casalegno from the MIT, Carlo Ratti still from the MIT, and so on. So that was, again, another kind of work or research we've been doing at that time, and since we working on, because we pretty much established this idea of interaction design also at the educational level through the Master of Design we're teaching at Sapienza. Sapienza University, just a very, very quick highlight about what we do at Sapienza University of Rome and design. Of course, design is not only taught in Rome at Sapienza. There's a large network in Italy, and you probably all know already the Polytechnic of Milano. But we have a quite, you know, we have made quite many few programs and also, you know, Naples and Florence and Venice and Genova and Turin, Bozen and many more. So Rome is pretty much at the center of this kind of network, and we have an undergraduate 3 years, which is quite large, of design, and then we have 2 graduate programs. One is in product and service design, which also is involving the engineers of the computer science, and another one on graphic design and communication design. And also we have a PhD program where I am chairing the design curricula. And of course we are in a discipline department where we have in a faculty of architecture. In the Faculty of Architecture, we're part of the Faculty of Architecture, and I'm also heading, directing this center, which is called Sapienza Design Research, which is connecting together. It's a department of departments. So this is also a bit telling about how much interdisciplinary is my experience. This kind of department of departments is connecting together 10 different departments at the university level. As you may know, probably Sapienza University of Rome is the largest university in Europe. It's huge, and you really can have from human studies to physics to the sciences to medicine and engineering and you may name it. So our departments of departments, Sapienza Design Research is connecting 10 different departments at Sapienza doing research on design. So it's not only the design department, but it's also the mechanical engineering, it's also the computer science, it's also the psychology for the ergonomy and user experience. It's also, of course, the department in architecture, and the department in marketing and economics, and more, and many more. And I'm working pretty much in order to develop projects, interdisciplinary projects on design together with them. And we had few projects which have been funded also at the European level. One of the very last one was a research project on the PhD, on the internationalization of PhD programs. We got it together also with Loughborough University and Delft University in Holland, and we started this project in few weeks. Going ahead, also we are working together with Phil and Common Ground since ever, since many years, and I can say really that all I learned about organizing a conference and collaborating with the conference and sharing also with other institutions is coming from Common Ground and design principle and practices. So I'm really devoted to this service, and so from this experience, which we would like to keep on somehow servicing also for the future, we developed another important conference that was in 2007 with the European Academy of Design, where I'm also sitting on the board. And that conference in 2007 was called Design for Next. So we were pretty much trying to dig on, the future of design through a number of different tracks, from technology, from the history and the theory, and so on. And we had an incredible response from the public. And so we had like more than 600 papers. And of course, we already published the conference position. Now, at the moment, we are working. This is another project we developed in that period, which is called Design for Next Lazio. And so we had a number of different companies. We networked a number of different companies together, and of a number of professionals and a number of other schools of design in the Lazio region, developing projects for innovation for those companies. And so it's pretty much a co-design project. And we had, we gave a prize to a number of these projects. And now these projects are being prototyped through the companies and also being, put them on market through the companies. And the Lazio region, the institution of the Lazio region, pretty much participated and pushed this project. So it was quite a very important project. And, this, and I think it's important to understand how much, that the university and the academic schools were working, also bridging together the practice of the professionals and the production of the companies, making pretty much, sort of network. I think this is the way we should work with design, where practice and education and the company should pretty much find a way to work together. We, at the moment, we are working for another conference together with the same principal practices. We had a very nice agreement since, let's say, more or less 1 month, which Phil just signed it together with the president of Cumulus. I am part of the board of Cumulus since few years. I'm the second time in the board, and we working for the next conference of Cumulus, which was supposed to be held in 2020, and it's gonna be in 2021 in June. And so, of course, all of you are pretty much, welcome to join us. And we really expect to, it's the 30th anniversary of Cumulus, so it's also a very important date for Cumulus itself, and we're very happy somehow to host this celebration. And I'll let you know also one of the many projects that I was involved with. This is called Designing in Rome, Design Products for the Temporary Communities in the City of Rome. And this was both an educational and a research project. We mapped a number of different communities in the city. I have also a picture here. Here you are. A number of different communities. Communities in temporary communities means that it's a group of people that they use the public space, the public space for sharing, services and activities for leisure, mainly for leisure. So we had a community, for example, of Chinese that were teaching Tai Chi in a public park on Sunday morning. We had another community of skaters that are skating. They used to skate on Wednesday night in the very center of Rome. We had another community of Pakistan who are playing cricket in a square of Rome on Saturday morning. So they using the public space in order to, sharing common activities. We've been mapping those kind of activities, and we developed co-design groups together with them in order to develop products, services, and systems for them, which at the very, very end of the project, we exhibited for an exhibition in the city of Rome, which was public, of course, and where we shared all the projects of co-designing. This is a picture of the exhibition in 2006, as you see, and these are some of the pictures of the communities that and the projects that we developed together with them. This is the cricket, this is the pincho, the skaters. Now let's go into the topic of the lecture, of the keynote. So that was, I hope, a short introduction in order to let you know a bit more about me. But this is the main focus of my keynote: designing for post-industrial society. So where post-industrial is probably the main key element, key topic that I would like somehow to share together with you. At the very, very beginning, I want to share with you, this is a cover of a magazine. You probably already know the Harvard Business Review. Harvard's Business Review, as you know, it's a magazine coming from the Harvard University, and it's not a communist, of course, journal. It's something that is pretty much related with economics, and they published this cover telling us, asking to us how to fix capitalism and unleash a new wave of growth. I was quite surprised when I got this magazine, this cover, because I wouldn't expect this kind of title from this kind of magazine. So that means that, you know, if we need to fix something, that means that there's something broken behind that, right? So if we want to fix capitalism, that means that someone is telling us that capitalism may have something broken behind that. And after this magazine, I found another one, you know, really few months after that. And that was called the magazine is called Internazionale. It's an Italian magazine. This magazine is collecting every month the main covers of the newspapers around the world, the most interesting and important articles around the world. And they published this cover with this title that is La fine del capitalismo. La fine del capitalismo means the end of capitalism. And also the picture behind is very interesting, where you can find a sort of Karl Marx in a pop version, you know, dressed like Christmas with the red star. So it's a sort of pop, I would say pop Karl Marx. So it's not the old kind of Karl Marx that we used to see. And it's more like a postmodern Karl Marx. So it's a mix of different things, right? And so entitling the line at the end of capitalism is also very interesting. That means stressing again on this idea that capitalism, I wouldn't say it's coming to an end completely, but there's something changing behind that. There's something changing, and we know that. This is the picture that we used to, you know, when we think about, you know, industry, the picture that we can have in our mind, if we close our eyes and if we think about a picture that is embodying, you know, the idea of industry, is Charlie Chaplin in modern times, in the movie Modern Times, where really Charlie Chaplin it looks like a part of the big machine, a part of the big factory, right? It's one of the many wheels of the big factory of capitalism and industry. And this is another picture taken from Modern Times, where you can see Charlie Chaplin is part of the chain, where everyone, you know, a piece of this kind of long chain, and everyone is doing just a very small action, and it's all the same. It's the same action. It's always, of course, you know, quicker and quicker and quicker, because the industry needs to produce a lot of products. You know, the quantity is important, has been important for the old industry, quantity. And looking again ahead, this is a picture of the chain again, where you see many people that are dressed all the same. They look all the same. They're part of this big, you know, machine, this kind of big factory, where everyone is doing just a very, very small element of the whole, work of the factory itself. And if we look also into the Ebenezer Howard Garden City of Tomorrow, that was designed at the very, very end of the 19th century, we can see that that kind of machine of the factory was also pretty much redesigning also the idea of the city, where everyone has a place, everyone has every space has a specific function, and everyone is embedded in the place and in that function, pretty much as like the big factory of the old industry. And this is the picture of Detroit. Detroit is probably the industrial city itself. It is really the picture of Detroit has been for a long, long time, pretty much, embodying the idea of industry. And looking from the very, very top, this is pretty much looking like the old factory, where every space, every function has a specific space, and the grid is pretty much, making a picture of the kind of work that we used to have in the factories itself. So the kind of system of the factory is spread out into the city and into the family and into the behavior of the people and into the society. This is making a sort of grid, right? Where again, quantity is important rather than quality, and everyone has a specific space, and everyone somehow has a specific role and a specific function. So the big question we have now that the old century is gone now, I mean, what's left from all of this? That's a big question we should ask ourselves, and we are asking already ourselves. What's left from all of this? And this is the picture of Detroit nowadays. It's one of the pictures. Of course, many of these buildings now have been renovated. You can have probably leisure activities like sporting clubs or cafes or restaurants or anything like that, probably. But this is the picture of the old industry. This is what's left from the old industry, from the from the industry we had in the last century that we have nowadays. And also again, looking another picture. This looks pretty much like the picture of the factory of Charlie Chaplin, where now everything is empty and the old industry is gone, right? So, and this is, so in some cases, it's pretty much the kind of what is left from this kind of industry. So we're living now in a time of deindustrialization, where the old industry is going away, and something different is coming. And as designer, we really need to understand, where is production going? More magazines, okay? You'll probably, Wired, the Wired magazine, okay? So the idea after industry was that everything was gonna be, a service. We would not need any more of any products, objects, physical production. And the dematerialization was related also to the change also in technology. And so the computers would pretty much replace every kind of, in an immaterial way, and the services would replace in a material way all the old, kind of industry and physical production. But then we see this kind of cover saying the new industrial revolution. That means if we had an old revolution, we have a new industrial revolution. So it's not completely true that the industry is going away completely. There's something coming back in a new way. This cover pretty much seems to tell us that there's something coming back again. And another cover still from Wired, how to make stuff. And this lady here is one of the heroine of the new industrial revolution. So we're still making stuff. We're not getting rid of physical production. We're not getting rid of making. We're still making some kind of physical. And so we need also to design still this kind of physical stuff. But something changes, so there should be a difference between the old and the new, right? So what is that difference? So industry is still working with, but now we have a new kind of organization, a new kind of weight of industry, of course, into society. And the big question again is, what is the position of design? So industry is changing, production is changing, processes are changing. What is design? We still need design. So, but what is design doing for that? So this is an old hero of Italian design, Bruno Munari. You all know Bruno Munari. And in the back here on the right-hand side, you can see also one of his, art pieces called Falkland Lamp. And I brought this project because it's very interesting to understand how Bruno Munari did work together with the factory, understanding the process of production of that factory, of that industry, in order to develop innovation through new products. The factory I'm speaking about is a factory of tights, ladies' tights. Do I pronounce it well? Okay. And the tights are, so he has been looking pretty much into the process production of the tights. And the tights pretty much have a special kind of process of production. So he rethought completely that kind of process, bringing that product into a new lab. So that means that the role of the designer here is in the factory, and Bruno Munari was pretty much working locally. So he was working in that place. He was living in that place, looking to the process of production of that kind of company in order to make innovation. So everything was pretty much localized. And Bruno Munari was one of the many workers, like Charlie Chaplin in The Chain. So the designer was one of the many workers in the chain of production. These two guys are Kram and Westerhard, and I want to show them because they really display the difference between the old role of designer with the factory and the new organization and the new role and the new ways of designing coming from the younger designers. Kram and Westerhard did design this table called the breeding table. This project is starting to be, few years, I believe like 10 years or even more than that. And it is interesting because these two guys, they're not living in the same place. One is living in Austria, the other one in Scandinavia, so very far away from each other. One is a computer scientist, the other one is a product designer. So collaboration of completely different, skills, and they've been working to this table, which is not just one shape. The lamp of Bruno Munari is one shape produced in huge numbers, all the same. Their idea instead is having different, this table can be produced in many different shapes. So everyone can be different from the other one. So they were not just designing one shape, but they were designing the parameters to make the shape. So it's more like a sort of designing in mathematics rather than designing shapes. So the idea behind this project is that the customer goes online on the website. They can put different parameters on the software, and the software will shape a completely different table according to the customer. So completely, different table for completely different customers. So as you can see, Bruno Morari was living in a place and was working for a factory in that place. Kramer Westergaard, they work in completely different places, far away one each other, and they don't design just one shape, but they design many shapes that, you know, will be pretty much customized directly by the people online. A completely different approach, completely different way of designing for a completely different industry, completely different way of producing. These are some of the drawings of the table. As you can see, completely, and now other pictures that show pretty much the parts which are, you know, that made the table, and also how the factory looks like. This is not looking like the old factory of Charlie Chaplin, does it? It's a small lab. It looks more like a lab rather than a factory, right? So completely different. You know, also the size is different, way smaller, and the number, of course, are way different. So it's not only changing the process of design, it's changing also the spaces of production. And here is the space of production again. You see how much this is completely changing. So again, questions. What are the new scenarios of design and production in the post-industrial knowledge society? That's the question we need to ask ourselves, okay? And we need to share some kind of thoughts behind that. And perhaps we can continue also after the keynote to share some ideas. This is one of them. This is one of the factories of, you know, contemporary times that can develop it also for the future. Ponoko. Ponoko is called the personal factory for, and it's pretty much a service company. They can get, you know, the drawings of the designers, and they can also, you know, help the designer to develop their products. And they can also produce and distribute also the products anywhere in the world. So this is pretty much the kind of organization which is behind that. At the center, you see, you have Ponoko, which is collecting together the material suppliers, the digital fabricators, the DIYers or buyers, and the creators. So this is kind of at the center of this. So stakeholders are completely changing. Usually factory, the old industry, was embodying within the factory all the stakeholders, production, you know, distribution and design, everything was within the factory. Now the factory is a very elastic element that is connecting people rather than embodying different stakeholders. And of course, how it works. For the creators, they can make things so that you can upload the product design as designers, you can choose the materials online, you can get an instant online price, and then you can make and deliver the products for you. And you can sell things, of course, you can set the copyright and the license for pricing, wherever in the world. Then you can make things, you can display the products in the showroom as actually like a shop, like a store, and then the customer can see the product and they can order directly the products, and then the designer gets paid. The organization is completely different. While the designer at that point can really bridge in a different way directly also the customer. And of course, you can buy things as a customer, okay? So we're pretty much living into this idea of digital democratization of the creative profession. That means that, I mean, digitalization is pretty much within any kind of skills. So the skills are changing completely. Movie making is changing, as well as design is changing itself through software. And that means that there is a sort of process of digitalization, which is enlarging also the people that can get into that kind of profession. We call it the creative profession. That means also that is democratizing also the profession itself. And this is also challenging not only the profession itself, but also the education into design. So we have also to think about that our role as educators is changing completely at that point. And we have to understand that how that is changing our role. Enzo Mari, another hero of Italian design, you know, he's not anymore with us since, you know, a month or so. So he disappeared very, very recently. And he had a concept. This is a quotation from Enzo Mari. And where you can see also, he was pretty much in this idea of democratization. But the kind of democracy that he was thinking about is related to the old industry. He used to say that the potentially positive model of the standard that is equal objects for a society of equals. That means we're making many objects, many products, and these products can go into the house of everyone. That means that there's a sort of democracy in getting products. And this is completely different from what we say now, because democracy's case nowadays means that we live in a society where everybody can design. It's not about just that design can get into the house of everyone, it's that everyone can somehow find ways of designing. So everybody potentially can become a sort of designer, or can also at least take bits and pieces of the job of the designers. And they can do also design. They can also design objects in their house. I'll give you some examples of that. Make. Make is a magazine since few years, and it's one of the first, I would say, DIY magazines developing this movement that we all know, that is the maker movement. Every month, Make is publishing, you know, projects of people that might probably not have a degree. They may not probably be designers, but they are making stuff. They're making projects, and they're making also products, also very, very interesting. But the difference is that Make is not showing only, it's not just displaying the projects of people bottom up, but they also display how to make those projects. So they are not just sharing, you know, the final outcome of their activity, but they share also how to make those objects. They pretty much developing that kind of idea of collective intelligence that could somehow be related to design. So new technologies enable experiences of self-productions and forms of participation. So behind this idea is the idea of self-production. We can make stuff our own in our house, and we can also participate to the project. Old industry didn't let you do that. The old industry was pretty much closed. So they were hiring designers, they were hiring, you know, workers, they were making the products, they were selling, and people had to buy them. And so that's pretty much behind the idea of consumption, right? In this case, we can redesign pretty much that kind of experience, also thinking about the fact that people can also self-produce stuff, and they can also participate to the process of production. So the designer himself is at that point the enterprise. They can develop real enterprises. That means companies. They can be the producers. They can make stuff their own without, you know, bridging with the company. They can also develop a brand, and many of the designers pretty much put their name as a brand into their production. They can also make the distribution also, you know, online, easy. They can also develop, of course, the communication. When they're branding, also they can develop and they can also market their production. They can even sell the stuff directly to the people. So industry is broken at that point. If a designer can pretty much take one or more of these kind of pieces, that means that that production and industry are not embodying all of these phases. Arduino. You probably already heard about Arduino. I would say Arduino is nowadays is the new made in Italy. I think is one of the most important invention and products that Italy developed in the very last few years. And what is interesting from this project is that it was pretty much open source. Many people have been working together to develop Arduino, completely different ways. It is coming from a project that is called the Design Institute of Ivrea, which closed a few years ago, which is a project coming from Olivetti and Telecom Italia. And the students, together with Professor and Massimo Banzi in particular, developed this project, which was again, modified and and innovated and processed. And we have many more than one Arduino, of course. So I think that experience is very, very interesting to understand how the organization of design and the project is changing. And this is also, bringing me to this kind of idea of designer, not just as a creator, but as an inventor. This is a picture of Leonardo da Vinci, which I believe was one of the very, very first designers in our world, because he was matching together being an engineer, being a designer. He also used to paint and to be an architect, and so he was also a humanist. He also was bridging the humanistic knowledge into the engineering knowledge and technology. So I think that is pretty much what designers nowadays are trying to do, because they really are very interdisciplinary, and also they're bridging together very different skills, like from the human side to the technology and the engineering side. Designers at this point, looking into this idea of networking, cannot act anymore as a positive, the only person who is developing the project as a sort of positive hero coming from the last century, but it's over, and then it's over the image of the designer creating artists and unique masterpieces. It's not just one product, it's many products, and they're different. And then, of course, these are created by many people, not just one person once alone in his office. Another example to, in parallel. Still and Somari, the guy which we've been speaking about before, he developed this product. This is an ashtray, and it's called Putrella. And Putrella means it's a way of saying in Italy, it's an H-beam. It's pretty much an H-beam. But of course, it's a curved H-beam, as you can see, to make just a bit different. So it's an objet trouvé, what we would call an objet trouvé. So we take another object already made, and then we do some small transformation, and then we create a new product, and which is pretty much the result of production. And this is also somehow a symbol of the lost last century, and the H-beam, very industrial, very heavy. Sorry, I need to put my... Okay. And looking to that project, nowadays, this is the same project which was redesigned by Ronen Kadushin. Laser cut, so you can make customize it. You can make as many as you want. You don't have to make it in big numbers, but just you can make it in small numbers, and you redesign completely the former project. And you can even produce that at home, potentially if you have a lab. So it's the idea of objects shaped by other objects. So it's not anymore the creation of one object itself, but it's about the fact of the designer is taking objects and recreating new objects from other objects, which is completely changing the point of view of the designer itself. So designer, that we can say that he's working like a DJ or a VJ, so remixing different objects. It's not creating something from nothing, but it's about mixing something from other things. So pretty much like the job of the DJ with the music. At that point, the boundary between production and reproduction becomes blurred. We really don't understand where production is ending and where reproduction is starting, right? So this is all blurring completely the borders between one each other. And then the concept of post-production is pretty much emerging. Post-production concept coming from the cinema, from the movie industry. Post-production means taking bits and pieces of pictures and videos, cutting, pasting, mixing together, and remaking something from the old, from other stuff. This is pretty much what we started working now, post-producing. So designer is not anymore producing something from nothing, but is producing, always produces something from other things. The internet is a so large environment where we can take ideas, we can take images. And also, our brain is redesigning those kind of images, is retaking back images, mixing back again. So it's not anymore creating something from nothing, but it's always because we absorb our brain other images, creating something from other something that we got before. So we are at the very, very end, and I would like to leave you with this quotation from André Gortz. André Gortz wrote this book called L'Immatériel, which means the immaterial, and he used to say that the division between the workers and their reificated work is therefore virtually abolished, since the means of production become appropriable and subject to be made in common. The computer seems to be as a universal tool, universally accessible, through which the entire knowledge and every activity can be in common. Thank you really for joining us, and I really look forward to hearing your comments and questions.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. I'll clap for you. I don't know if anyone else wants to. I don't know how we do virtual claps, but that was a very interesting talk, and wonderful of you to take us through that history and understanding how human agency gets transformed and how the designer plays a role in understanding what the scope of human agency is. So that's really fantastic. Okay, so we're going to do question and answer like this. You can raise your hand by using the, actually, I'm not quite sure how to raise your hand. If you know how to raise your hand, raise your hand. If you know, you can put a comment in the side box in the chat. So if you want to just put either your name or your question in the chat, and we will take it from there. I'm going to ask the first question while people get ready for that. Yes, we will share the slides. And the first question, Lorenzo, is about labor. And what I would like to know your thoughts on is one of the things that the industrial factory system did secure is a pathway from, training into job security. That's the ideal kind of thing. You train to become a designer, you work, and, there is some kind of stability in that process. As somebody who's been on the front line training the brightest students that the world has in design, does this new world give the same prospects of job security? And what is the underbelly of this argument about freedom? So if you could just talk briefly about that. And as Lorenzo does, please put some of your questions in the chat box, and then I will take them in the order that you have put them down. Over to you, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Phil. This is a very, very good and difficult question, I would say. And this is one of the challenges of the future, one of the very, very critical challenges of the future. And we have good news, because we have an era of creativity, which is exciting and open, and where we really can invent quite everything. At the bottom, At the other side, this is coming very, very critical. I mean, if you think about the number of the School of Design that are, open now in China, it's an incredible number, huge, incredible. And of course, they will graduate every year an incredible number of designers, incredible. And these designers, of course, will travel all around. We're not going to stay there, right? So more and more designer is going to be really like a mass profession at that point. So this is challenging, pretty much, our role. And also we have some you probably heard recently that there's a school that is open, that Google is opening. You read it on the news, right? Yes. And also this is something that we need to face. It's a challenge we need to face. I mean, how the education in research should change. And that point, that means that, we still need an open, wide kind of education, which can be very, very important on one side, or do we need somehow to be focused on specific aspect of design? That's another kind of challenge and question we have to ask ourselves. Now with this pandemic time, right, we all challenged to teach online. And we also now, we are having a keynote online, right, which is completely different from being, together. It's another challenge. I mean, these has, positive aspects because anyone can connect, anyone can come here, right, can join us. But at the same time, also there are some aspects which are challenging, for the future, because this is completely changing the way we should communicate. I was telling in my university that we should try somehow to reframe completely our education in design, completely. I mean, there's something that can go online, but then there should be very, very high quality, very, very high quality. We should open up a registration room where we can register the lectures, and we should have very, very high level lectures of, important people, maybe just one, very few of them with, come anywhere. And then, but then there is also the job, the everyday job that we have to do with the students. So that means that we have to hire a large number of, researchers and teaching assistants, very large, yes, that are really, having kind of work together, one-to-one, which is so important for design. So this is completely changing, the model of designing, which, if I look back at Renaissance, you have small studios, you had a master, and you had 2, 3, 4 people working together with the master, growing up together, learning with him. And that kind of, we keep on this kind of model still nowadays, but that's old, that's gone. And if we have to teach to a number of very large people, and maybe, when I review my master students, their thesis, some of them are like 3 o'clock in the night, others are in the morning, others are in the afternoon. They're all spread out. Our International Master of Science in Product Service Design is international. We get students, it's in English. We get students from anywhere. So we have a challenge here, and we have somehow to understand how to develop, interesting models. There are opportunities, but also at the same time, we have to tell to our students that the future is not to be always a happy end. Because so many designers will, of course, somehow, that means that the challenge is then innovation. Mm-hmm. And you need to keep on growing up. So it's like continuous education. We need also to face this kind of idea of continuous education and innovation with that. So not only having very, very young students, but having also maybe professionals which are, much older than us, which we should somehow try to involved also in this kind of innovation model. Mm-hmm. We have a challenge, a very important challenge here. I don't know the perfect answer. I'm sure I'm not giving the perfect answer, but we need to design it. We need to design it together. We need to make the right questions in order to develop together for the future the right answers.
Yeah. Claudio, do you want to jump in and ask your question or comment?
Hi, Lorenzo. Congratulations to your presentation. Yeah, I made a lot of questions, but yeah, when you start to say about the design frontiers, and you talk a lot of one of that frontiers, but maybe the make movement, the entrepreneurship, and I see the design service and design systems moving to a more complexity object of and moving to a process design maybe, and we have some difference between the classic art or maybe engineering approach, and we have as well this physical, digital, and parametric design, generative design. So maybe it's quite huge universe to deal with, and you said about our how to training this super designer, and maybe I am asking if it's a little bit idealistic, and I'm asking as well if there is there any main central the core central of the design for post-industrial society, and if we need to leave design foundations. And this finally I am interested about the aesthetic in this training, if it's still necessary or not. Thank you.
And before you answer that, just before you answer that, I'm going to take Victoria's question too, because I think that connects, and then we can answer them together. So Victoria, do you want to add to that your question about what is the role of the designer, and if the designer is in danger?
Hello, how are you?
Hi, ciao. Good to see you.
Very nice to meet you all. Well, I connected. Unfortunately, we have a time difference and couldn't connect at time to see from the beginning. But at the end, you said something about this new consumer, about this new culture, about this new culture of do it yourself. So I was wondering if this endangers the role of the designer, or should we as a designer have to start rethinking how the exercise is done, how we should design, thinking of this new consumer that wants to do it himself, you know? So that was basically my question.
Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. Now, I will try somehow to bring together as much as I can. I mean, Claudia, you're making a very, very good point. I mean, this idea of dematerialization and service design that, you know, we had since, let's say, the first decade of 2000, last period of the 90s, it looked like that we were really going into an immaterial, world. Product design wouldn't make any sense anymore. So also, we stopped really even teaching product design at, in our programs. And then product design was very, very, at the design, engineers, they kept on doing the job very well. But the designer at some point stopped, working on on product design. And you could not find many product design programs. So this is one of the reasons why we, more than 10 years ago, we wanted to have a product design program. And because we think and we believe that we still need to make stuff. I mean, the world still needs design. We still need to develop projects, because project is somehow related also with the idea of innovation, of course. So society really needs a lot of innovation, okay? We just experienced it, quite few years of Donald Trump. So that means that we need a lot of innovation, right? So we're happy to get out of that in a way, but that means that we need to, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to work on. There's a lot to design and for innovating our society and to be more large, democratic, and safe, and all of that, right? So there are a lot of number of challenges like health, like safety, as I was saying. I mean, people in Africa or in other places that are really, there's a lot of difference. The poor, which are becoming more poor, and the richer, which are becoming even richer. There's another project to do. There's so many projects to do, right? So we have so many challenges, and we need design, and and we need also to make stuff for that. At some point, we started thinking that we had this kind of opposition. One side, the service, fighting against the service design and fighting against the product design on the other side. And we started understanding that we cannot have products without services, and we cannot have services without products. The two things have to go together, right? They have to go together. And also, you asking about aesthetics. Aesthetics, of course, is so important. Having ideas, it's not enough. And I'm taking back, some reflection that I had from Andrea Branzi a few years ago. And he used to say that in the Eastern world, communism did not succeed until, the wall, because they could not develop a clear aesthetic for the people, for their people, in order to match together the ideas together with the aesthetics. So they were following all the time what was happening on the Western side. People, the people wanted to be in another world, because aesthetic, the world they were living in, was really old. It was too old. It was not innovative. Okay, and so aesthetics is important. I mean, but aesthetic, I would say that aesthetic is not just the beauty. Aesthetics is a philosophical concept. That means it's the expression of a society. The aesthetics is an expression of the society. It's not the beauty, is about what I like, what you like. Also, it's about consumerism. So it's about consumption. Aesthetics is a philosophical concept, and every time, every society has its own aesthetics. So it's the way the society is expressing their ideas, shapes through interaction. And so the aesthetics of literature, we have the aesthetics of music, we as aesthetic of products, of course, at the same time. So aesthetics is a very large, concept that is pretty much, so every society need a new aesthetics every time, because you want somehow to identify yourself into an aesthetic, which is not your grandfather, okay? Which is your personal generation aesthetics. So aesthetics is so important. So we need design, but it's not the aesthetics for the aesthetic per se. It's the aesthetics really giving an interpretation of the time, of the society, of the ideas, of the technology. Every technology has a different aesthetics. So we have to learn, understand technology in order to develop the aesthetics of technology. Otherwise, it's completely, separate. And yes, we need, we have a challenge. Again, we have a big challenge, since, everyone can be a designer and the consumer can become a designer. We have to understand that we're not anymore the masters of the project. We need to co-design our society with people. We cannot just close our office and leave the society outside. We need somehow to live with the society. We need to co-design with the society. So we need to develop completely new tools of design. So if I look back into the old, the Enzo Mari, the one I was speaking before, or Bruno Munari, which they were the intelligentsia, the best part of our design society, right? They were really the best, the brighter side of design. But still, they were closing their offices. They were responding to what production was asking. They were like artists, big artists. They were leveraging at a different level from society, thinking about to give an interpretation without being into the society. And now we have a challenge because the design schools have somehow to develop tools for our future designers to co-design our society with the society, which is a completely different way to do that. Hope to have answered to both, hopefully.
Thank you, Lorenzo. I'm just cutting in, just being conscientious of the time. We don't want to keep people too late. Now, if someone had one last question, Anastasia, I see your hand going up, so I'll go ahead and go to you, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yes, thank you
We'll
very
try
much.
to be as quick as possible.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm Anastasia Stavridou. I'm a principal investigator in the Department of Architecture in the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki in Greece. Thank you for the presentation. I think that the things you said that for the interdisciplinarity and the connection between different fields is a very important issue for designing, and especially for architecture and spatial design. I think that interdisciplinarity can enliven and renew the form production and produce new designs with positive impacts for environment and society. I would like to have a question here. Are there some ways that you are thinking in order to promote interdisciplinarity? This is the question.
Okay, yes, very, very good question. Well, yes, in our Master of Science Product Design, but also the work I was doing at Carleton University, we were really designing together with the other people that were not designers. I mean, the fact that I have a studio together with computer science. So there's one professor in computer science and engineer, and there's myself in product design, and we work together with our students. And the credits that we give are the same. So I'm not the master, the big professor of the studio, but I'm sharing the same level together with the computer scientists and the engineers. The same is happening also with the mechanical engineering, trying to understand the new processes of design with another studio. And we have also the people working, the engineers working on the new materials that are working with another studio, also with the designer. And then, of course, the people in marketing and strategies, economic strategies, working together with the designer in order to understand what is the strategic role of design through projects. So we try somehow to say, okay, I am not the only one who can design. There's always someone else also that can mix up together my skills together with something else. And we try, and difficult. It's very difficult because we have a language, engineering has another language, and the psychologists have another language, and then we all speak our language. So sometimes it's even difficult to understand each other. So maybe I can misunderstand, what a psychology is saying, and the same also I can be maybe misunderstood by them. So there's a big challenge, again, another challenge. But I think that the good way to, to think about redesigning the programs of design could be in that way. And of course, also research in design. I mean, I cannot think about design without innovation and research. Research is fundamental. And we need to do that with other skills.
Yes, I totally agree with these things. I happen to be an architect engineer and environmental engineer, so I understand the connection of those fields, and I have a PhD on civil engineering, so I can understand this connection. It's difficult, but it's very, very interesting, and it can produce innovation in design. And it's very helpful in the design field, I think. Thank you very much for the answer.
Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you.
All right, Lorenzo. Well, thank you for a wonderful presentation. We will be Once it's downloaded, we will re-upload it to the event website. If you've not already done so, there is still time for you to record your presentation and add it to your presenter page. Remember that outside of these live events, everything is asynchronous. So you each have a presenter page where you upload digital content, film, CAD files, PowerPoint, whatever it is that you need to visually represent what your paper is. There is a comment space next to each of these, which we hope you engage in. Claudio has already, he's our new expert. He's already in there commenting, so that's a fantastic thing. And we are going to leave that content open forever, and we're trying to get as much of those presentations in there so you have that resource to use going forward. So once again, I thank you all for being here in these crazy times, and I'm going to give the final word to Lorenzo.
Yeah, no, I have a very kind of request to you and Sarah, if that's possible.
Yes.
I would love, instead of sharing the presentation, which means very, not much, I would like to share one of the papers I published through Design Principle Practices on this topic with the people here. So if you could perhaps connect me with the mailing list so I can send to all of you the paper, and I would prefer to share this so we can also continue our conversation.
Wonderful.
Also after the conference.
Wonderful. Yes. And also what I also want to remind you, that's a great way, is that as part of your conference registration, you get access to 10 years plus of what we've produced in the journal and book series, which is a wonderful resource to have. And so thank you. Yes, we will for sure. And I really appreciate you all being here and the patience that you've showed over this last year. And again, when we get together, it will be a wild night. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Thank you.